Hello, I'm Päivi and welcome to watch my December video. Last year I created a watercolor card right at this time in December, and now I'm creating the same size but a bit different one, but flowers, because I'm obsessed with flowers. I'm obsessed with painting flowers. I want to learn to paint like the old Dutch masters in the 18th century, and there are some lovely floral still lifes also in the 19th century. And I want to learn to paint flowers really a lot in detail, but not so that I would, sketch the flower and try to do everything like in the photo or such. I don't use any references. I want to paint freely, and I want to be really good at painting flowers. It's always a strong temptation to start painting flowers colorfully and boldly, but I've learned that the more freely you paint, the more carefully you must start. I have an online course, Freely Grown, where I teach in detail how to throw yourself into painting flowers as natural as possible without models. Even though I have already made a course on this topic, there's always room for improvement. This year, I've practiced a lot so that I could learn to see from the first random strokes of the brush what kind of flowers could grow on paper. And I've tried to get better at taking the painting forward with every stroke. The old aphorism goes, ars longa vita brevis, which means that life is short and craft is long. So skillfulness takes time. I sometimes wonder if I will live long enough to achieve the art of flower painting, and sometimes I also wonder why to aim for something that humans have already achieved. But since I don't live in the 18th century, I'm especially interested in seeing what will come up when those old skills are used now in the 21st century. What do my flowers want to tell when they are born now? This inner fire, which is a small obsession of mine, will lead me somewhere exciting, I'm sure. I don't know why I'm so much into flowers, but every time I see a floral painting, I feel that I know that if those flowers are alive, and I know what kind of spirit they have. They really spark my imagination. Even the most traditional still lifes can really speak to me when they've been created in a way that I feel that the painter has listened to what the flowers have to say. And this may be silly, this may be something that I know that I should probably paint much more expressive stuff, and I do sometimes, but now when accepted as a member for the Finnish Painters Union, I feel that I can finally relax, paint a little less expressive, paint a lot of flowers, and even if this would be too superficial subject for somebody, I don't care anymore. I just want to paint them. I want to learn to paint them really well. And I know this is challenging and kind of stupid too, because the easiest way would be just to sketch the flower based on the photo and try to follow the photo as carefully as possible. But if I would do that, I would be against what my watercolor set wants. I know that many don't have this kind of emotional connection with their watercolor set, but this little plastic set, that's what really speaks to me. And when I open this box, I feel that that's the spirit coming out. This kind of, these pants, they want to be free. They want to be free, and I want to let them run free. I want to believe that they know those flowers. I've showed them all the paintings. I've looked at those paintings a lot. I've examined them in detail. I've tried to figure out what makes me a bit different than the old Dutch painters, but still what would make my painting shine in the same way too. I practice with watercolors, but I've already painted a few paintings in oils, and my goal is to paint those floral still lifes in oils. And I'm just currently working on one oil piece that is not finished yet. I will show it to you. This is the piece that I'm working on. This is in oils. And this is not detailed enough. It's only one layer. So I will finish this later, and it will take a long time to work on this. But this is just something that's in progress currently. And I don't want to practice in oil because it's so expensive to paint in oil, and it's much better to learn something, to paint something in watercolor first. I feel that watercolors are those quick things. They require that you think what the order could be and such, because you can't cover them endlessly. In oil, it's much easier, but I want to learn to think too. I want to learn to figure out how these paintings are born in a most natural way, because I believe that I have to respect that the flowers come out naturally, that they kind of grow inside me and they come out naturally. And that's why I try to observe every little detail, everything that the watercolors throw on paper accidentally, that maybe there could be a flower, maybe that could be a flower. I try to look at everything in detail, and this kind of looking, this kind of seeing and looking also makes me happy. It's weird that I'm so obsessed with this topic, because there's so many other topics to paint and to draw, but I don't know. This is just something that really calls me right now. I have speeded up this video because painting this little card took me 4 hours with breaks. Acceleration can give a false idea of how fast I'm painting. I paint this slowly. Look! Especially when the camera is recording, there is a battle going on about how precise work needs to be done. Because thinking is many times faster than painting. However, I've noticed that my ideas are not always that brilliant. So, when I don't have time to paint as fast as I think, I have time to come up with better ideas. It has also helped me that I teach painting and record what I do. I learn from watching the recordings. I often wonder if I could speed up my process, not by painting faster, but by skipping a step. I've also learned to take more breaks because I've noticed that I paint worse when I'm tired. When the flowers are born freely, the composition is not always successful. There's a lovely big lily here, but its orientation downwards unnecessarily directs the eye to the bottom edge. I already know that it has to be faded somehow. The eye should go up to the other flowers. It often happens to me that a flower is born to inspire. And when it has done its job, it's time to paint it further to the background or completely away. This doesn't happen in a process where everything is sketched precisely. So yes, sketching could make a difference. But I paint with emotion, and that's why there are such deviations in the process as well. I want an old-time feel to this card. I'm thinking of a warm and homely place, like an old library, which attracts me, especially now in winter. The old flower paintings are really detailed. They are so masterful. But many of them have unfinished areas, or even flowers that were completely unfinished. I've been to exhibitions, I've seen this, all these mistakes that you probably don't always pick if you only look at digital images. So everything doesn't have to be finished in the same way. So one detail can be different than the other. One part of the painting can be much more blurry than the other. The flowers in the background and on the edges can be more abstract, more blurry, more undefined. Next, I remove the tapes and finish the composition. Maybe the lily could be a bit like a decorative object and not a flower. I don't think it's important to always paint everything realistically. I don't have to know if it's a flower or if it's a vase or if it's just some doodles. There can be enigmatic parts in the painting. I love painting ornamental shapes and leave them like that, like there would be, writing, a signature there in the middle of the painting. I sell larger watercolor pieces and oil paintings, but I leave these kinds of small hand-painted and hand-drawn things to myself. They are for dreaming. Although I'm a working artist, it's important to take care that there are not only one or two sources of inspiration, but many kinds of things that form a diverse world. Although I love old flower paintings and want to learn to paint as well as the old masters, I also need playfulness. Do you know the feel-good novels? Their plot mostly follows this formula. A young woman starts a small business, for example, a cafe or a bookstore, and despite the difficulties, she makes the place and the selection really wonderful. I believe that we can create the best boutique out of our own art. Imagine your workspace as a paper shop where you sell hand-painted cards, bookmarks, hand-drawn stickers, patterned papers, everything that is already art as such, but from which you can look for inspiration for bigger works. Your inspiration is then processed once. It's not that you just borrow, you've already processed it. I have even come up with the name for this kind of personal inspiration shop. It's Boutique of the Heart. There's only one customer in the Boutique of the Heart, you. And one seller and one manufacturer, you. The longer you keep the shop, the more you learn to love things you draw and paint yourself. The shop owners always want to please their customers, so you will quickly see what you really love and what not. Maybe you paint a brown paper that looks ugly and then realize that when you make an art journal page, you always need something neutral, and that sells fast. Sometimes the need is practical and sometimes emotional, but the satisfaction is always there. This also leads to the fact that you will create more because your customer wants more. Commercial papers or cards no longer feel as fine and valuable as your handmade things, and you want to grab a pen or a brush more and more often. The essence of art is in play, and thus no matter how high you want to reach, you can still create art with a playful attitude and have the boutique of the heart. often see the essence of a flower as animal or human. I can see where the flower looks at and which flowers are friends with each other. In this image too, I can see there's a conversation in progress. The flowers are chatting. In my opinion, the expression doesn't depend on the subject, but on whether the picture has an atmosphere and if there's any interaction between the object or the elements or the shapes. Here's the card I painted last year, side by side with the one that is now finished. This year's card pleases me more, so it's proof that I'm going in the right direction. I'm now more skillful with shapes and details. This all is encouraging, although there's still a lot to learn. Come along to learn with me and follow my journey by subscribing to my email newsletter at www.peonyandparakeet.com. I always have new content to share, and it's not always videos. Sometimes it's photos and texts. But if you love art like me, I think you will enjoy it. So come along and follow my journey and let's create art together.